Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. Okay, time for another monologue. Before I start my monologue today, I want to start today's session by thanking all the new members since the last monologue. So, Nitin Viturkar, Mil Numbert, Kaustub, Om Kazama, Srinivas Ramachandran, Sri M, Secular, Commie Turd, Raghu S, Varun Sangani, Just AM, Saurabh Tiwari, Nischit VA, Bhushan Nagaonkar, Malhar Zoglekar, Atul Dhok, Parth Chauhan. This is not Sawan, Chauhan. Just P. There's a, there's a member with the name P. Mayank Sharma, Paramita B, Sri Harsha Pothukuchi, Anish Joshi, Rajat Mathur, Vyosa, it's just VYO space SA, Vishal Pandit, Saurabh Dhokale, Keval Mangena, Akshay J. Kamath, Kapil Parkar, Murthy Mukkavalli, Ashwini Naidu, Vishal Goswami, Ashwini Das Gupta, Piku, Yashaswini Gargav, Sudhanshu Parida, Prem Kumar, Prasad Adam, Vinav Chhatri, Aurindam Saha, Aditya Sharma. Thank you very much for becoming a member of the Cārvāka podcast. I really appreciate your support. Like always, before I start my monologue, once again, if you want to support the Cārvāka podcast, there are multiple ways that you can do. One, you can go on YouTube, go on the membership page, and you can become a member of the channel. There are two tiers. There's a seekers tier and there's a speak with me tier. The speak with me tier gets access to all the Ramayana videos. Plus, they get to speak with me once a month. This month's AMA, which is Ask Me Anything, is going to happen. I basically schedule it. जो भी आप जिस घर से आते हो, अंग्रेज हो या अमेरिकन हो, schedule it at the end of the month. So this month's AMA will be at the latter half of the August. Uh, if you don't want to support via YouTube, you can pledge your support via Patreon. If you pledge $5 and above, you get the Valmiki Ramayana discussions and the entire discussions on Patreon. Other than that, we are covering the entire Aryan invasion, Aryan migration out of India theory hypothesis. If not that, you can send your donations directly to kushalmehra at ICICI via UPI. Yes, I can repeat this kushalmehra and ICICI forever and ever. मुझे बिल्कुल शर्म नहीं आती. Or you can buy the Cārvāka podcast merchandise. Now the merchandise can be bought directly at kushalmehra.com/shop, or you can go on Kadak Merch, look under the creators, and you can go to the Cārvāka podcast and buy it there. It doesn't matter either way. If you're an international supporter, you'll have to go to Kadak Merch. I have no way to send you any international shipping through my website. Kadak Merch can manage that. And I also want to announce that there are some new merch designs that are going to be coming up. I'm working on them. So the sampling is happening. Once the sampling is done, then we can have some new designs. Now, how does the monologue happen? As always, I try to restrict my monologue to 30 to 35 minutes. So I am hoping today's monologue is going to be of that time frame. If it is going to exceed that, I'm sorry, but today's subject is something that I've worked for like 1 year. I've been reading, writing notes sporadically, making tweets or Facebook posts sporadically, and I was collating all of them. And this is a proposal, not a theory, it's a hypothesis. Now, nor am I under any delusion that people are going to agree with this hypothesis, nor do I care if they agree or disagree with this hypothesis. This is just my understanding of reading books, articles, papers, looking at how, speaking with people who are involved in the Hindutva movement itself. I've been lucky in my life, at least in the last 10 to 11 years, to meet some senior people in the RSS. I mean, they have been very gracious. They've been, talking to me in spite of knowing that I'm a Cārvāka. They actually talk to me. They converse with me. They have explained their point of view. Also, I've been lucky to read some books and stuff like that. So today's monologue was titled purposely as a question mark, and the question mark was Hindutva is Hindu modernity. So what I'm trying to say is that can be called Hindutva, Hindu modernity. Now, as always, if I'm making a hypothesis, the first thing that I should do as an honest, presenter of ideas, I should actually try to, maybe explain what I mean by modernity. Oh, and just by the way, if you guys have any questions, you know what the drill is. You'll have to use either super chat option over here, or you can send your donations at kushalmehra at icici. My phone here, I can see who has sent the donation, and then you'll have to tweet at me if you've used UPI at, on Twitter at kushal_mehra. That's the only way we can do this. So now, so like I said, so if I'm raising the hypothesis, or I'm raising the question, which is Hindutva Hindu modernity, or Hindutva is Hindu modernity? The first thing I should be doing is I should maybe start by explaining what modernity is, right? Now, obviously, there are standard caveats which are, you know, the 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 exact overlap is never going to happen. The reason the exact overlap is not going to happen with how modernity or the modern era uh, went about happening in the West is because, in many ways, societies are a product of their religious social realities too. And in the case of India and in the case of the West, the overlap is not exact, but there are too many glaring similarities that, in my opinion, you cannot ignore. That's just my view. Once again, you can disagree with me. That's not an issue, but I would request you to hear me out. That's the least you can do. And then after that, you can disagree with me. It's a free world. I mean, at least I assume it's a free world. As of now, we never know. So things might change. So let's first, set a baseline of what is loosely considered as modernity, and then what are, the various essences, the defining characteristics, or the raison d'etre of modernity. So from what we understand from listening to people in the West, scholars in the West, they say modernity basically is associated, or modernity is the process, I think that's the right word, of certain changes in Western society, changes at a cultural level, changes at a societal level, changes at an intellectual level, at a thought level, basically, that happened starting from 1453 right up to at least 1930s. Now, usme bhi there are debates. Now, some say it ends at World War II, that is 1945. There are some scholars who say, no, it goes right up to 1972. So there are, like, the end of modernity, the era of modernity, has a debate. Some say it is like 1930 to 35. Some say it's 1945, and some say it's 1970s. Now, I am nobody to say where it ends. I could care less. My job through this monologue is to tell you that that's what they say. Now, like I said, modernity is loosely defined as certain changes that were happening in these societies. I'll repeat from now. Some again say it is not 1453, it might go back to 1436 or 35 or even slightly before that. But I'm just giving you different dates because when I was reading for the last 1 year, I was like, yaar, decide kar lo aapas mein, date mein bhi decide nahi kar pa rahe ye log. And there is fierce debate about the starting date or the year and the ending year. But loosely, let's say from 1400s to 1900s, loosely, is your entire phase of modernity in what is understood in the Judeo-Christian world. Now, within modernity, you have three eras. Now, Judeo-Christian world has what first they call is early modernity. Now, again, early modernity would be something from the 1400s to, let's say, 1780s or something. 1789, I guess that's what they say. Then there is classical modernity, which includes some parts of the Enlightenment too. Now, classical modernity obviously goes up to 1900, like 1910, 1914. And then this is where the debate comes. Like, some people say there is something like late modernity also, which is starting from 1900, goes up to, even in some cases, some people say like 1990 or 1980 or 1970. Now, these are your three phases of modernity. Now, The early modernity, according to them, is basically the nascent stages where people were interacting with what they like to call the modern life, like certain changes in norms, as you say, like some norms are changes, so that there was this orthodoxy or this standard view or something of that sort. And then the questioning, the baby steps of questioning those things starts in the early era of modernity. Then when it comes to the classical period, right, which is the main era of modernity, as you call it, which is 1789 to 1900s. This era basically is when a lot of changes are happening in the society. A lot of changes maybe in terms of technology, as in explosion of newspapers and other forms of media. Then you have scientific changes, and when I say scientific changes, not just in the technological realm, in our understanding the nature of the cosmos, the design of the cosmos. How do we understand the world? Like there was this biblical understanding of the world, and then comes this era, which is basically the classical era of modernity, where there is a humongous challenge to the biblical understanding of the world. That is one era. And then obviously you have late modernity, and we don't want to get into what late modernity is now. What I'm going to focus on today is just uh, not so much on the technological aspect, but more on the social and the cultural aspects of modernity, and how it kind of affected the Western world. So let's say one of the features of modernity in the Western world was secularization, right? So basically, one of the features of what was happening over there was the separation of church and state, or basically stopping the sacred to enter the state area. And you can say it's a challenge to Roman Catholicism, and it's a 150 year phase that went on and on. So now some people say early modernity, I think this is a very important point to make, is that they use a very weird line, and I have written it down. They say it is the decline of pre-modern beliefs. Now what do they mean? I mean, when they say decline of pre-modern beliefs, they basically say that beliefs that were held before 1400s in every realm, like I just said, science, technology, social beliefs, stuff like that. So, and in that, one of the biggest challenges to pre-modern beliefs is basically considered the advent of the printing press in the 15th century. And with the printing press, basically some of these scholars and just got a full free hand, and they just went on and on and on and on and on, and they kept on challenging everything in society. Now let me kind of bring even more focus. So what are some of the essences or defining characteristics? And I've written some down. There are too many in literature. If you want, I can tell you all as per them. I'll just you should write out the words, because I can't remember so many. Because so there's bureaucracy. That was one of the defining aspects. There was objectivism, basically industrialization. That was another thing. Secularization, as I mentioned. Rationalization, basically a rational approach to things, of the way you go about deciphering things. Urbanization, that was one more, where basically you shift from a very village life to a big urban center life. Homogenization, where now here's a caveat: homogenization in that part of the world, because you might come and say, how the hell are you going to do it over here? I'll try to address these issues when I come to Hindutva. But homogenization was definitely a movement in which is a very distinct feature of Western modernity. I don't like it, but it is basically a social movement where you try to homogenize all the views. Now if you're going to say that, Kushal, how is it a problem in the realm of science? Maybe not, but in the realm of society, I believe homogenization sometimes tends to be a dangerous thing. It's a double-edged sword. Now do we want homogenization of thoughts on things like racism? Yes. If everybody could agree racism is a bad thing, that homogenization is good. But do we want homogenization of the opposite, that where we say, as sorry, racism is bad, homogenization is good, racism is good, homogenization is bad. But homogenization is another feature that they say is that obviously democracy, in a very weird way, not just democracy but a totalitarian way of democracy, like a top down kind of way, that is also there. Universalism, now this is in the realm of science, where you find universal solutions or grand answers to the larger narrative of life, how the world has come about, why it has come about. Mercantilism is also part of modernity, which later on transforms into capitalism. That is there. And I've purposely, like, a lot of literature in the West will not use the word mercantilism, and uh, I disagree with them, and I'm deviating, to be very honest. I am using the word mercantilism. I think it's a feature of modernity. And later on, as the moral arc, in my opinion, kept on changing in society, mercantilism transforms into capitalism, because the as human beings become more empathic, have more compassion and empathy, they get rid of the bad aspects of mercantilism, in my view, and they kind of change it into uh, kind of capitalism. Now, some Western scholar might come and say, "Oh, Kushalmehra, you're wrong," and I say, "I don't care. I think mercantilism is also a feature of that process." Again, commodification. It's a byproduct of, again, capitalism. Basically, in a weird way, a reduction of everything into sort of a base level monetary value. That part of culture is also, I think, attributed in the West to modernity. Now, I think I've given you a basic idea of what modernity is. Now, I could have, gone on and on and on and on and told you about how it happened in science, how it happened here. Like, in science, and you have Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, and all that, and many other things. But I don't want to do that, because, like I said, I want to finish this in 30 to 35 minutes and then chat with all of you for 1 hour. That's the whole aim of these monologues. I share my views and then I chat with you. I always want to give more time to you. So I'm actually cutting out a lot of things that I could have spoken about, but those are unnecessary details, in unnecessary in quotes, obviously, that you can just go and read by yourself. So I'm not going to bore with you with that. Now, you might say, okay, Kushal, you have said or tried to briefly explain what modernity is in your view and how it was divided, XYZ. Now, how is Hindutva Hindu modernity? And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying Hindutva is Indian modernity. Muslims have their own process going on in India. I believe a majority of Muslim society in India is pre modern. You can judge me all you want. This is not a moral analysis of that society in a way as in they are good or bad. I'm just saying they are pre-modern. How do I make this judgment? Pupils. I mean, if 70% of a society believes in Sharia, I'm sorry, they have pre-modern beliefs. I mean, they don't have modern beliefs. I don't know how else to say that, but in India, Muslim society has pre-modern beliefs, especially if you support civil Sharia. So when I am talking about Hindutva is Hindu modernity, my sole focus is going to be entirely on Hindu society, Hindu transformation, Hindu changes. And now you might say, Kushal, what do you mean by Hindu? Now, obviously, my definition of Hindu is categorically a negative definition, which is used in legal parlance in India. And that definition is people who are not Abrahamic. Now, the legal definition also includes Jews and Parsis. Now, I don't want to, because I think Indian Parsis have molded a lot in Indian ethics, and I don't consider Parsis to be Abrahamic. So, which is why I've created a categorical definition here. Hindus are those people who are not Abrahamic. Now, Abrahamic, you could have Abrahamic Hindus too. You might come back to me and say, but I can't help it. But I have to draw a line somewhere. I have driven, I've kind of drawn it here. That's my line. So you can take it or leave it. I could care less. This is my line. Now, are there phases? So the first question, if I want to build my case about Hindutva being Hindu modernity, is that is Hindutva early Hindu modernity or Hindutva the second phase of Hindu modernity? Now you can quibble with me on this, and I'm not going to hang myself on this one. But according to me, Hindutva is what I would say falls into loosely, because I know you can quibble with me on this one, but I think Hindutva can loosely fall into what I call classical modernity. It's not exactly like classical modernity, but Hindutva is not early modernity, in my opinion. The natural question that you will come back to me and say is, then Kushal, what is early modernity according to you in India? Well, I think, again, this is my view, early modernity in India is even before. Again, this is a very controversial claim, and people might disagree with me, but I think the early modernity of India is the Bhakti movement. Now, I'll take you back to how did I define Hindu modernity? What did I say? Hindu modernity was associated with movements or challenges to certain cultural or intellectual standards of the society of that time, and those challenges led to certain changes. Now, why do I think Bhakti movement is a quintessential thing, and it is what I call early Hindu modernity? Is this. Now, again, you may disagree, you may agree, I could care less, but in my opinion, Jati Varna was very birth based in this time. At least by this time, now when we are talking about Bhakti movement, so I'm talking about, saints like Guru Ravidas around 1450, Kabir Das 1398, Namdev 1270, Nandanar 8th century, or I don't know, 12th century. There is a debate on based on historiographical material. I'm talking about from Tamil Nadu. Guru again, Ravidas being from Uttar Pradesh, Chokha from Maharashtra, 14th century. Obviously, Namdev is also in and around that area. Now, these saints, I think, were challenging and creating certain cultural and intellectual changes through their movements in Hindu society. So, in my view, Hindu modernity predates Western modernity, because Western modernity, according to them, starts 1439, 1453, or 1500, according to them. I think Hindu modernity starts in the Bhakti movement. You can disagree with me, but this is my hypothesis and my proposal to everybody. I believe Hindu modernity, the classic, the early modernity of India, has to be started at the Bhakti movement era. The Bhakti movement era, through which the birth-based Jati Varna, the discrimination, the insults that scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, or certain OBC castes were, were, you know, were being exposed to, the lack of openness in certain castes in India, the lack of upward mobility in India, the lack of spiritual upward mobility in India that so many jatis were facing. These saints, and always remember, one of the key features of modernity is that it is a challenge to the surrounding of that time. Now, if there were no Westerners at that time in India in a big way, you can't blame the Hindu saints for that. So these Bhakti saints were basically reacting and challenging the norms in a major way, creating huge intellectual movements at that time, which is why I believe the Bhakti movement qualifies as early Hindu modernity. Now, you can share your views with me and you can ask me. Now, the second phase of Hindu modernity is where we come into what I call classical modernity, which is the second phase. And that is where I would say we talk about four fundamental organizations, four important organizations. I'm not saying they're the only ones, but I believe these four organizations are very important. So the classical era of Hindu modernity, which is phase two, starts in 1828. You might be like, what the hell? Such a specific date. Well, it is very specific because I think the classical era of Hindu modernity starts with the baby steps taken by Brahmo Samaj. So think of it like a Olympic running race. Brahmo Samaj lights the Olympic torch, starts running, taking very baby steps. Then in 1875 comes Arya Samaj. It takes that torch from Brahmo Samaj. Brahmo Samaj was restricted to a particular section of India. Arya Samaj takes it. Then Saraswati ji makes the torch. Again, I'm not denying Mahatma Phule, Jyotirao Phule, or Savitribai Phule, or all the other movements in southern India. They are all part of it. But there is a very unique perspective in what these people were doing, which is why I'm using them. I am not denying Jyotirao Phule his credit. They are all part of this. But because today's discussion is about Hindutva, so I have to use these organizations, not Jyotirao Phule and all the other organizations. My focus is solely on Hindutva. And I have to basically show that Hindutva is modernity or Hindu modernity. So we come to Arya Samaj, and then Arya Samaj starts its own way of dealing with things. It comes to Shuddhi movement. Arya Samaj also, in a very interesting way, kind of self-Abrahamizes. It's a controversial view, but I think it is. Arya Samaj comes up with this concept of, kind of a very monotheistic way of looking at things. First of all, the Arya Samaj insistence on only one book. Now, why is one book better than multiple books? I've never understood, but Arya Samaj says one book. Ek book hai. Because Arya Samaj was responding to the socio-cultural movements around them at that time in India. The dominating ideas were Christianity, Islam, and they keep on attacking you, keep on telling you you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. So, but then Arya Samaj takes, in my view, the torch from Brahmo. Arya Samaj does its thing, and then around 1915 is when you have the Hindu Mahasabha. Now, if you guys remember in my discussion with Vikram Sampath, I had quoted Savarkar. And Savarkar has himself categorically stated that the Arya Samaj is actually the Janani of the Hindu Mahasabha. Hindu Mahasabha is actually an offshoot or an outcome because of the efforts of the Arya Samaj. Direct connection. And then obviously the last main organization which has to be mentioned is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh in 1925. Now, why are these organizations very important? These organizations are important is because they were looking at the social reality. Now you might say, Bhakti saints bhi to wahi kar rahe the, to inhone kya extra kiya? Well, there is a huge difference. Bhakti saints, in a very significant way, were different than these people. One of the major reasons was Bhakti saints were before the printing press came. Most of them, the ones I have taken the names of, they came before the printing press came. Now, I don't remember the exact year the first press came in India. I want to be very sure. So let me find out. I've forgotten the exact year. Because I think it was around 1800s में आई थी first printing in India. मुझे याद नहीं 1800s या 1700s में कुछ आई थी. I don't remember the exact date. But why I'm saying is the Bhakti movement was before the printing press. Now these folks, what were they reacting with? These folks, the focus of these organizations was obviously Brahmo Samaj was fighting Sati and a lot of those things too inside Bengal, because that was a huge problem in Bengal and Rajasthan, not so much across India, which is again, I think, a bullshit claim by people from the West who keep claiming that, um, that this is a pan India phenomenon. I don't think so. Sati was a pan India phenomenon. I think Sati was a very specific phenomenon to certain parts of India, and Meenakshi Jain's book is a very, very good proof of that. But like I said, so I don't need to revisit all these things, because in my chat with Vikram, we did talk about the 7 tenets of the Hindu Mahasabha, Saha Bhojan and all those things. Um, they were talk about interdining, intercaste dining, intercaste marriage, entry into temples of SC/ST or OBCs, and various other things that they were fighting about. Now, obviously, Arya Samaj also was the innovator. To be very honest, I think Arya Samaj was the quintessential innovator, in this sense that they started this thing of reconversion, Shuddhi. They called it Shuddhi. So Arya Samaj was also doing that, challenging the status quo in different ways. Hindu Mahasabha basically takes what Arya Samaj was doing and adds like 3-4 doses of testosterone to it too. And then finally, the RSS takes it up and systematizes this. Now, there is a fundamental difference which I also want to mention between what the RSS does and what the Mahasabha and Arya Samaj, and for that matter, even Brahmo Samaj does. The reason RSS is successful, and the reason RSS is the number one organization when it comes to Hindu modernity, is that it is an idea based organization. It is not an individual based organization. RSS is obsessed with ideas. It is not obsessed with individuals. Unlike Hindu Mahasabha, which was Savarkar obsessed, Arya Samaj was Dayanand Saraswati or Swami Shraddhanand obsessed. Brahmo Samaj, the personalities over there too. They were obsessed with personalities, and they kind of weaned away post the death of their major driving forces, unlike the RSS that keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. So back to the case. So then the natural question that you would ask again is, does Hindutva qualify as Hindu modernity? In my opinion, I think it does. Because like I explained in the process of what happens in modernity, there are certain norms that are entrenched in society. There are certain norms that are based on the classical religious orthodoxy of that time. And in India, definitely jati based discrimination and many other taboos were there. And in a very, very, very unique way, I think the Hindutva movement has challenged all these things. Now, the second answer you might come up with, and you might say, is, does it exactly overlap with the way, the eras of modernity have happened in the West? No, it has not. And I'll explain why it cannot. The reason it cannot, and I'm very aware of the time, but please give me 5 minutes. I have to make these points. So, the reason it does not exactly overlap with the best is not that they are also humans, we are also humans. You might say, ki, why isn't it overlapping exactly? The reason it doesn't overlap is, at the end of the day, the culture is what the larger religious fabric of that society is, because religion is the single largest dominating factor in every culture. Religion literally, and now society develops after agriculture. They create certain norms. Those norms get codified as religion. Then religion stays the same, and then the reverse process starts in the next 100, 200, 300 years of that codified system that was created by post agricultural humans, to becoming the orthodoxy of the society. All modernity does is poke holes in it. Okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. So I think Hindutva qualifies there. At least inside the Hindu pantheon, Hindutva qualifies as Hindu modernity. In fact, it fits the definition to the T, in my opinion, at least in the social sphere. Not so much in the economic sphere, and I'm willing to accept that, and that is the point that I want to come to now. Now, you might say that, is Hindu modernity going to succeed? If yes, why? And what are the possible things it is lacking or missing for it to go to the next level, because this is very important. And this is why I won't say it's a very big fear or something. um it's a question that I have in my mind now. In my opinion, till now, I think Hindu modernity and Hindutva has succeeded. It has succeeded in breaking caste barriers. It has succeeded in destroying certain ancient norms that were very regressive. In my mind, they are regressive. If you think they are not, that is fine. I don't care. It's a free country. But like every movement, it needs the next level, right? Like, I believe we are still stuck in stage 2. We are not going into what I if you remember when we started the early phase, where late modernity, I don't think so Hindu society has reached the phase of late modernity even in 2021. And I'll explain why. I don't believe India is in a postmodern phase. I actually believe India is in the second phase of modernity, even right now, this very moment. And we are struggling to even go into the late modernity phase. And these are the factors, I believe, that we have not completely achieved, and we are stuck in phase 2. Number one is industrialization. India is not an industrialized society. Now, you might say we are not a village. I'm not saying it is a village. My point is that you can look at the norms and the standards set. India is not an industrial society overall. India is still a pre-industrial society. And until and unless India will not go through that process of industrialization at a large scale, we are going to struggle. You may not like the fact, you may not like the truth, but too bad. We're not going through it. That is problem number one. Problem number two, capitalism, which is where I think is the biggest blind spot of the Hindutva movement. Because whether it's RSS, whether it's Savarkar, yes, Savarkar, and if you don't believe me, I can literally pick Vikram Sampat's book up and I can show you the interview that Savarkar gave to the organizer, an RSS journal magazine, and what were his economic views. And even Savarkar's economic views scare the shit out of me. I don't I don't need to prove myself, but if you have any doubt, go pick up volume 2 of Vikram Sampat's book. It is there, right smack bang in the book. It's a detailed interview of Savarkar with the organizer or Panchajanya, I don't, whatever, Hindi or English ki jo version thi. Check his one paragraph where he gives his economic view. And that's what scares me, which is why I say, because we have not adopted capitalism or laissez-faire economics in its true sense. Just think about it. We are not in the third phase, which is late modernity, is because 1991 mein to we opened up our economy. Manmohan Singh and Narasimha Rao opened up our economy in 91. And since how many things have we done since that? So we are barely in the nascent stage. We are not even in the late modernity era. That is point number two. Mass literacy. I think that is also something that India is lacking. And when I say literacy, not just a school certificate, really educated people, people who can think, people who have clarity when it comes to first principles, people who believe in rational thought, people who believe in evidence-based systems. I don't think so we are in that stage. At the social level, which is why I say we are in the classical modernity phase still. Another point, urbanization. We're still a partly urban society. Even now, 50% of our society, or maybe somebody might say, oh, there is this survey which says 60% of India stays in urban areas. I think the kya naam tha unka, I had this discussion with Abhinav. I forgot the name of the scholar. I'm very sorry. It's a Chetan or something. T से कुछ नाम था. उन्होंने उनके हिसाब से 47% of India is urban. So imagine, how can we be in the late modernity era when only 47% of India is urban even today in 2021? We're not. We need to urbanize more. We need at least 75-80% of our population to get urbanized. We need 100 more urban centers. In the last, this phase we are entering, This is happening in India. The spread of mass media in our lives. I believe what has happened with us is that we skipped the era of that, mass media, how it happened in the West, although we do have remnants of that too. But we're entering, that role is now completely taken over by WhatsApp, so, Facebook and all those. So this is happening in India. So this is where I have a lot of hope that we will reach the late modernity area because of this. But until we don't industrialize, until we don't follow laissez-faire policies, until we don't have mass literacy, and until we have urbanization, these four, we just have the mass media right now happening. Until these other four factors do not happen in our life, I am telling you, India is not going to change. And even Hindutva, no matter how sympathetic I might be to Hindutva in some ways and critical in some ways, we are not going to completely get over the problems of our society. This is my view. So I will end today's monologue, and I apologize. I'm 5 minutes ahead of my usual time. So if somebody would ask me, Kushal, is Hindutva Hindu modernity? My answer is yes. Yes, it is classical modernity, but it is not late modernity. And for Hindu society to reach the stage of late modernity, either Hindutva has to change itself, its inherent nature, or some other new movement has to come that believes in, I repeat, that believes in industrialization, capitalism, mass literacy, urbanization, these 4 points. So I'll end my monologue with that. Once again, please take my words not as some biblical word of God, but take these as a hypothesis that I have presented. My aim is to make you think. My aim is to present to you certain trends that I have observed. Now you can take them or you can leave them. All right, now let me start, because I already see there are a few super chats already, and there was a UPI donation. So I'll start with the UPI because I got the email. So some Pramod has said, Kushal, you had said that Kerala did a better job because there's less deaths, but don't you think that might be because it gets it before India gets the next wave? So why no states lack oxygen? It has plenty to offer. No, I don't think so. See, okay, Pramod, I'll answer this question because monologues are not, Q&As of monologues. You can ask me any question, to be very honest. Um, I'll answer all the super chats. It doesn't have to be pertaining to what I have said today. It doesn't have to be that. So as far as Kerala is concerned, so here's what I was trying to say when I mentioned Kerala, right? As far as I'm concerned, Kerala daily case numbers do not matter. And let me tell you, now tomorrow, if 2 months down the line UP starts having an explosion of cases, my stand will be the same. I don't care what are the daily cases. I only look at two things. Is the healthcare system equipped to handle those cases, the serious ones that are hospitalized, and how many lives are saved because of that? That's the only criteria that I think I have. And when I say Kerala has a good healthcare system, I mean to say they have a good primary healthcare system. Obviously, when you talk about specialty healthcare, Kerala does not have it better. Then Keralites have to go to Bengaluru or Mumbai and the big cities of India. But when it comes to primary healthcare, the infrastructure in Kerala is the best in the country. You may not like this reality. It is the reality. So because they have a very good primary healthcare setup, and for COVID, the key is you don't need some specialty healthcare. You need primary healthcare for COVID, which is why they have been able to handle COVID better. I don't know why people find it so hard कि नहीं यार आपने तो ऐसे कर दिया, ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया, आपने केरला को कर दिया, आप कम्युनिस्ट हो गए. अरे बाबा, Kerala is a part of India. My thinking goes like this. If I can learn something nice from Kerala, I will learn. I will not learn Kerala's economic policy. I think it is garbage. Gujarat has a far better economic policy. So take Gujarat's economic policy and take Kerala's primary healthcare setup. I don't know why it is such a big problem, but apparently it is. Okay, now others also. I have my cell phone open. If you don't want to use the YouTube Um, uh, Super chat option, you can use UPI. Like I said, kushalmehra at ICICI. Now let me look at super chats. All right. Uh, okay. Let me just give me a moment. Let me open it. Okay, what the hell? Why isn't the YouTube super chat page opening? What did I do now? This is weird. Okay, this is weird. I don't know why the YouTube super chat page is not opening. I mean, there is this feature. It's called See All. Wait, let me open it again. I'm sorry. I'll extend the Q&A by 10 minutes. Not a big deal. But this is weird. So there's this feature where I'm supposed to see all, and it's not letting me see all. Okay, I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm sorry. So people who have asked a question after Harsh S, please ask your questions again. Type here. I don't know what to do. Or tweet at me. Tweet at me. I'm sorry. Tweet at Kushal_Mehra. I can only go by what I can see because there's some bug with YouTube. So Harsh S says, when we talk about modernity, we only talk about the Western model. What are the characteristics of Japanese modernity? Would love to listen to a podcast comparing Japanese and Western modernity. Well, look, I'm not an expert on Japanese modernity, so I can't say that. So I'm not going to comment on things that I am not an expert on. But when it came to, my whole focus was featuring Indian movements, and I wanted to place it as a standard against Western modernities because that is where it all came from. So I am not going to comment on that. Lee, please define Hindu trad with few current examples. Look, I don't know what you mean by trad. The way the word trad is used in on Twitter. Look, I have no issue with people who are traditional or traditionalists because traditionalists also don't tend to have standard value systems. They have different value systems. So it also depends on, you're a traditionalist of what Hindu pantha. So a Vaishnavite traditionalist might have different views. A Shaivite traditionalist might have different views. What the word trad, as it is used on Twitter, is, in my view, an indication of a certain set of people who have very outdated casteist views. They believe in birth-based jati varna, is what I have understood. Now, if that is not the case, and you're just a traditionalist and you don't believe in these things, fine. Trad, as it is said on Twitter, I don't believe Twitter trad is equal to traditionalist. Not according to me. There is, I believe Twitter trad is a dogmatic Hindu. A traditionalist is just a devout Hindu, a Hindu that believes in spirituality. Why? What is wrong in believing in spirituality? I have no issue with traditionalists. They do their thing, I do my thing. तुम तुम्हारा जियो, हम हमारा जियूंगा. सब अपने जीवन जियो. Vivek Sinha, some people hate Hindu saffron politics no matter what. In my opinion, it goes back to the Babri Masjid demolition movement and the riots that followed. Adding to it was the Helka report on Godhra riots. Your thought? Well, some people are going to hate. What are you going to do? So I think RSS hatred goes far beyond that. I mean, if you should listen to my podcast with Vikram, where you'll realize how much Nehru hated RSS, and the current hatred of RSS is a direct product of, you know, that hatred Nehru inculcated. So I don't think so. It goes from Babri. It goes much before that. Chetan Pai, Muslims don't believe in insurance and banking and free markets. As India gets more capitalist and free market oriented, wouldn't they get left behind? If they don't change, they would. And most will change. And if they don't, they will be left behind. What can I do? Too bad, I guess. Karan Pandita, my views on Bajrang Dal types and BJP pseudoscience. Well, anybody, there is no BJP pseudoscience, there is pseudoscience. There is no Congress pseudoscience or BJP pseudoscience. There is pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is pseudoscience. It sucks. My views on Bajrang Dal types. What is your Bajrang Dal type meaning? Now, you must be having an image of somebody who's a hoodlum who wants to beat people up on Valentine's Day. If that is your definition, I don't agree with that. I have met all kinds of Bajrang Dal types. Very decent people who just want to help society, and some Gunda type people. So there you go. My answer is that. Karthik Balaji, Kushalji, you opined Bhakti movement was modernity 1.0. What are the cultural and social changes we see because of the Bhakti movement? Well, one of the biggest cultural and social changes we see because of the Bhakti movement, Karthik, are a real challenge uh, to casteism. Now, the thing was that Bhakti movement may not have succeeded completely in terms of entry of certain jatis into the temples of other jatis. But what they could do was they were like, you cannot take my god or my devata away from me. So they started their own temple. They took they took the model which was in control or in the hands of some other people. They snatched it away from them and they did it their own way. That's what they did. What happened in modernity 2.0, which is Hindutva and all these peripheral movements, is not only did they have those temples, they made sure they remained there, but they tried to open all the temples for each other. So maybe in the 1.0 movement, we did not have one jati going to the other temple, but everybody starting their own temples, which was the baby steps. Then 2.0, they started doing this. Ki nahi, point A se point B jana hai, point B se point A jana hai. That's what must be happening. Okay, Shri Harsha Lok ki Neddi. What is my opinion on ex-Muslims targeting Hindus? What do you mean targeting Hindus? I am genuinely unaware of this. So pardon me if I'm unaware of this. I really don't know anything. I don't know what you're talking about. This ex-Muslim targeting Hindus thing. I don't know what it is. UCC is a loser's argument. Why do you support it? It will hurt Hindus more. If you don't have rights, fight for it. Take it from others. It's the stupidest thing I've heard. How does it hurt Hindus? What does it do to Hindus? Does nothing to Hindus. This is the worst argument I've seen. It is not a loser's argument. Just because you hear some nice, fancy words doesn't change the reality. Okay, Varun Narayan Swami, you've sent your donation through UPI. You please tweet your question to me on Twitter, or you can email it, whatever it suits you. So yeah, I don't believe UCC is a loser's argument. I think it's a winner's argument. It is setting your terms, and it is one of the requirements of the modernity process, in my opinion. So it is only a loser's argument for people who think like that. I don't believe it's a loser's argument at all. Okay, Brijesh. Modernity pursuit, in my view, is what aspirations country society holds for future and wants to live with it. How to handle this rolling aspiration and formulate a realistic strategy to achieve it. Look, Brijesh, there are no good answers, right? I mean, we're all going to experiment with these things. I don't know. I mean, RSS has a few good ideas. Swatantra Party had a few good ideas. Many people had a few good ideas. You just take whatever good you can find from all corners, in my view. So I think that's my take. Okay, I still insist. I'm genuinely not able to open the previous super chats for some weird freaking reason. I don't know why, but I'm not able to open it. So once again, request everybody, before, what was the name? Harsha. Please, if you can tweet your questions at me, I will answer them. I want to answer them. Please, please, please send me your questions. Because I remember there was this 500 rupee super chat before that. I remember that one, but I don't remember the question. So I'm sorry. I don't know how to get to it. This freaking YouTube thing is not able to open. I don't know why it's happening, but it is happening. It's just stuck. So I'm just able to refresh and see 5 super chats, but the ones before that, I'm not able to see. Some bug with stupid YouTube. Okay, how did you get into MMA? Is also, what are your favorite fights? I got into MMA through boxing. I used to watch boxing, and then through boxing and WWE in a very weird way. Because of WWE, I got into MMA, and then just one thing led to the other. And my favorite fights, there's so many fights. I mean, Rosnama Yunus, Zhang Wei Li is one that I absolutely love. Then there's so many. I mean, on the top of my head, I've given you one. Why does Hindutva hate feminist movements? Does it? Look, man, I meet senior RSS folks. I don't see them hating feminism. I don't know whom you guys meet. I seriously have my doubts about whom you're meeting. I don't know. Seriously. I mean, I don't know आप किसको मिलते हो. I mean, they may use different terminologies, but they genuinely don't care. They don't have time. To be honest, आपको लगता है ना कि आरएसएस वाले वो लोग इतने बिजी होते हैं ना सोसाइटी की और लाइफ की मंडेन चीजों से डील करने में, वो इतने वेले नहीं है. Just go and live the life of a RSS प्रचारक. Just do one thing for me. Just spend one day with them. You'll be like, ये लोग के पास तो टाइम ही नहीं होता है. टाइम आप बुरा नहीं बनाना, आप वेलों के पास होता है जो आप उनको माइक्रो एनालाइज करते हो. Karthik, while I agree with Abhijit regarding Hindus' extinction in 100 years, I think he assumes economic growth remains as same as today. What do you think, Kushalji? Karthik, yeah, I think you are right here, but wait for Wednesday. Abhijit and I are going to have a chat where I'll speak this time. Last time I did not speak at all. I let Abhijit have his thing. This time I'm going to speak. Okay, Varun, I got your question on Twitter. Once again, please, those who asked me a super chat, tweet करो मुझे तुम्हारे question, मुझे नहीं मिल रहे हैं, please. Okay, Varun says, I disagree with Abhijit's piece on Op India, but why are all these folks getting riled up over him being a beef eater? It's like shoving beef down their throats. It is this example of how Abraham is Hindu. Look, I don't think it is just that. Um, Look, I don't understand why I'm supposed to answer for what Abhijit does. To be very honest, I just want to put this on record here. मैं उसका पप्पा नहीं हूँ. Why should I answer for what he did? Would I put photos of beef eating? No, मैं तो beef ही नहीं खाता. मैं क्यों डालूं? मैं तो goat meat भी नहीं खाता हूँ. मैं बेसिकली चिकन खाता हूँ, वो भी हफ्ते में एक बार 2 बार मर मर के, या 15 दिन में एक बार. अंडा खाता हूँ. मैं तो शराब भी नहीं पीता. So why am I supposed to answer? Look, I have certain ways of doing things. I will not do what Abhijit did. But do I think he's a friend? Yes, he's a very good friend. But why am I supposed to agree with everything he does, or why am I supposed to mold him in my worldview? No, Baba, I'm not like you people. I don't want to mold anyone in any world. First of all, Varun, this is not on you. I know you are saying that it's not a big deal. So please, Varun, this is not a prahar on you. This is just a general statement. Oh, मैं उसका पप्पा हूँ. Oh, मैं क्यों आंसर करूं? ओ तुम जाओ, तुमको जो करना है करो. तुमको नहीं पसंद है उसको ब्लॉक कर दो. गालियां देनी है गालियां दो. मुझे क्या करना है यार? मुझे क्यों बोली जाते हो? And am I going to stop talking to him? No. Am I going to stop being friends with Abhijit? No. Am I going to invite him again and again on the podcast? Yes. अब बोलो क्या करना है? Does that mean I agree with what he does? No. पता नहीं यार क्या है. I think this should end. The Abhijit Iyer Mitra thing. पता नहीं क्या है, उसके पीछे पड़े रहते हो. राजीव मल्होत्रा said this is Chirant. Okay, thank you Chirant. आपने मेरी आवाज सुनी और आपने भेजा मुझे tweet. Said people like Bulle Shah digested certain Hindu ideas to proselytize. If you were a follower of Bulle Shah, in my view, you're just a Hindu, my friend. To be very honest, I don't know what was so uniquely Muslim about Bulle Shah. Chirant, here's my answer. So I don't agree with Rajiv Malhotra, but then most of the times I disagree with Rajiv Malhotra these days. Okay. I think one of the super chats was of some Pramod. So Pramod, कृपा करके अपनी question पूछिए. I'm again and again telling you, please ask me a question. नकली मेहरा, won't UCC destroy the diversity of Hindu society? अबे कैसे डिस्ट्रॉय होएगी? और तुम्हारे रिचुअल को तो नहीं स्टैंडर्डाइज कर रहे हैं. वो तुमको बोल रहे हैं कि सब लोग एक दूसरे से शादी कर सकते हो, तुमको जो रिचुअल करना है करो. तो कब समझोगे? The government has nothing to do with your ritual. The government is just saying civil laws, all civil laws for some standard laws for everyone. आपको शादी ऐसे करके करनी है या ऐसे करके करनी है, या आग ऐसे डालना है हवन में, या आग ऐसे डालनी है हवन में, या ऐसे डालनी है हवन में, या ऐसे डालनी है हवन में. वो नहीं होने वाला है यूसीसी में. इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी एन इंस्ट्रक्शन मैनुअल ऑफ 4 कपूर डालिए, ओम को ऐसे बोलिए, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी योर यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड. यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड विल डील विद जेंडर डिस्पैरिटी, कि औरत को नहीं दबाया जा सकता है, स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन ऑफ इनहेरिटेंस, औरतों को टॉर्चर नहीं कर सकते हो बाबा, वो होने वाला है. बाकी तुमको जो तुमको भंगड़ा करके शादी करनी है करो, तुमको अपना नाक पकड़ के शादी करनी है करो, बाल खुजा के शादी करनी है करो. यूसीसी को उससे क्या लेना देना है भाई? मुझे तो यही नहीं समझ पड़ता आप लोगों ने क्या बना दिया है इसको, कौन से रिचुअल मारने वाले हैं. अच्छा, अगर आपका ये रिचुअल होएगा कि शादी करने के बाद एक 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 फेरा लिया और औरत को पंच मारा, हाँ वो यूसीसी कंट्रोल करेगा. और अगर आपको लगता है कि ये रिचुअल बचाना इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो भाई आप मेरे साइड में नहीं हो, मैं आपकी साइड में नहीं हूं. नहीं, ऐसे रिचुअल नहीं चाहिए. अगर आपको लगता है यूसीसी आने से कौन से रिचुअल खराब होंगे, नुकसान सिर्फ मुसलमानों का है इसमें, और किसी का नहीं है. पता नहीं हिंदुओं का क्या नुकसान है, मुझे तो नहीं दिखता. पर ठीक है, चलो देखें और क्या है. Let me see other questions. Why did I study in Canada? Do you regret coming back to India? Oh, my studying in Canada was by accident. My student visa to America got cancelled, then I ended up in Canada. So, why did I study in Canada? It was by accident. Do I regret coming back in India? Partially, yes. I think I should not have come back. But am I daily sitting in a corner sulking, hey, मैं फंस गया इंडिया में? ये भी नहीं है. I'm pretty happy with my life, but I think I should have stayed there. Sandeep K, as a philosophy enthusiast, what philosophy do you suggest? A 30-year-old techie with wife plus child. I overthink, feel hurt easily, and driven by fear. See, I don't know, just be practical in life. I don't know. I mean, I don't follow one philosophy. I like something from Krishna, something from Epicureans, something from the Stoics, something from Advaita, something from Brihaspati Cārvāka, something from Tattva Papala Simha, something from someone else, something from someone else. So I don't go by one person, Sandeep. So I mean, something from Jaina like Anikantvad, or Buddhism, Chatushkoti. Um, in the West, even modern philosophers like Peter Singer or McCaskill. There's so many. Daniel Dennett, Michael Shermer, and he's not a philosopher, but he's got philosophical thoughts. So there's not one person. I mean, it's very hard for me to tell you, ye ban jao. I'm not a product of one school. I'm a product of multiple schools. Himanshu, do you think UCC will be imposed in Hindu temples since they come under government control? What has UCC got to do with temples? Those are two separate issues. Civil codes are just basically dealing with your marriage and that realm, inheritance. What has a temple got to do with that? I don't know. Conscious earth, I have no question from you, so I don't know how to answer. Can I invite Jay Prakash Narayan of Lok Satta Party Center Right? Also, where do you get the best pav bhaji in Mumbai? Dekho, I'll try to get Jay Prakash Narayan on Lok Satta Party, but I don't want to comment on where do you get the best pav bhaji in Mumbai, because it will lead to mob lynching. Because everybody is so in Mumbai, people are so bloody sensitive about मेरे area की पाव भाजी सबसे अच्छी है. Now somebody might say Sardar pav bhaji is the best. I did not like it personally. My favorite pav bhaji is in a restaurant in Ghatkopar East called Sadguru. I like the pav bhaji of Sadguru. Now, besides Sadguru, used to be the earlier number one of Ghatkopar called Achija. I think Achija is crap. Now it has become crap. Bachpan mein we used to go to Achija all the time, and we used to love the pav bhaji of Achija. But if you ask me, Sadguru is the best. But some people might disagree with me and say, nahi, 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 Sardar ki pav bhaji sabse achhi hai. Sardar ki pav bhaji sabse achhi hai. I don't think so. Sardar pav bhaji is good. Even one more joint in Ghatkopar has been there. You can also use that one, which is Malta, I think. Malta pav bhaji. It is near Vikrant Circle. Um, that area, that pav bhaji is also very good. So, but then people will disagree with me. They'll be like, "ये वाली pav bhaji अच्छी नहीं है. तुम cheater हो." So be it. मेरे हिसाब से ये अच्छी है. चलो जी, let me see what else is there. Chalo. Spammers. Let me remove spammers. Hmm. पता नहीं क्यों लोग स्पैम करते हैं. बड़े वेले लोग हैं. उनकी लाइफ में बहुत प्रॉब्लम है. Hmm. Hmm. I don't see questions. I see comments. I'm trying to see questions here. I don't see any questions. Conscious Earth, you've not asked a question. Okay, Karan Singh. Why are Hindus so lifeless? As a former Hindu Yuva Vahini in Purvanchal, a member of Hindu Purvanchal MP, we would protest and fight twice as hard even if we were in minority. I don't know. I guess political violence could be one reason. Um, I think a lot of time the culture of protests comes from political security and physical security, and I think that is missing in Bengal at a certain level, and people are still not able to trust BJP in a full proper way. So once maybe BJP starts protecting them in at the level of their comfort, they might start doing that. I hope that answers your question. Hmm. My views on Golwalkar: a person who should be studied. Don't agree with some of his views in a bunch of thoughts, but overall I think his biggest contribution was getting all those gurus and different in charges, and putting them together and denouncing birth based jati varna in spite of the humongous pushback from traditional people, Karpatri Maharaj and all those people, and he um, still did it anyway. Swaroop, can you have any argument in favor of the critical race theory? What best things can be taken from for Indian society? Honestly, don't think anything good is there in critical race theory. Intersectionality sometimes can give you a interesting way of looking at things, but even that is not um, completely robust. And I've explained this many times where intersectionality fails in past monologues, where, like, for example, intersectionality says, like, so you have a white woman and a African American woman, and so intersectionality says that because she's African American and a woman, her experience is more worse than the white woman. But then my counter to that would be, like, if is Oprah Winfrey worse than uh, a white woman in the rural South? So that's where kind of intersectionality also falls. So maybe that is my answer. Bal Narendra, how much have trads hijacked Hindutva with their rigid social religious norms? A trad was telling me premarital sex is against the Vedas. Is it true? Hey, Baba Bal Narendra, Hindutva, real Hindutva of RSS, right, does not, I don't know how to say, give a flying F about what trads do on social media. They are inconsequential. You find them consequential because you're on social media fighting with them. RSS will not even fart on them. Like I said, RSS does not have the time. They have bigger things to do than deal with some villa sitting in the corner twiddling his or her thumbs. It's like, मैं लड़ूंगा तुम्हारे साथ. Nobody gives a shit about those inconsequential muppets. So please, don't worry. That's my answer. Okay, let's see. What else? Hmm. What actions can be taken to blur the line of casteism and work towards greater good of society? I think what Hindutva is doing: urbanize, modernize, do what Hindutva outfits are doing. It's a mixture of all of that. Like I said, do what classical modernity in India and early modernity in India were doing, and then hope for the 4 points that I said in the early part of the monologue. Shraman, what do you make of these people who started hating Neeraj Chopra, the gold medal, because he congratulated the PM in 2019? They're morons. What do I think of them? They're morons. That's what I think of them. People who hate an individual just because he likes Modi are morons. That's all I can say. कुशल is not a true Punjabi if he doesn't drink liquor. अबे घंटा क्या है ये पंजाबियों का stereotype? Do you even realize Punjab has the highest number of vegetarians in India? ये भी एक stereotype है पंजाबियों का. पता नहीं क्यों है साला. ऐਵੇਂ ही पंजाबियों का नाम खराब है because of some weirdos. Was Golwalkar casteist? Oh bhai, Golwalkar literally did that sabha that denounced Jati Varna. Yeah, I just mentioned it. बच गए. Shri Harsha, since you mentioned Shuddhi movement, what is your opinion about Ghar Wapsi movement in today's world? As long as it is done willingly, who cares? Sabko lao andar. All are welcome. Convert karo. Free world. They convert you out of Hinduism. You convert them back into Hinduism. Some people convert people to atheism. Jisko jo karna hai karo. It's a marketplace of ideas. Let the best idea win. Let the best man, woman, non-binary person win. Very simple. All ideas are being fought in the battle place of ideas. जो अच्छा होएगा, जो जीता वो सिकंदर, जो हारा वो बंदर. Footy boy rock. As a Hindu, casteism really embarrasses me. Do you see signs of it being ever extinct? How do we initiate meaningful conversation with rigid castes? Ah, I mean, I don't know. You can. There are many ways. Like if you're in a one-on-one conversation with them, you can ask them, "How would you feel if somebody discriminated with you just because you were born in a certain jati?" Now they might be a real world asshole and tell you that, oh, it's a very good system, I don't want to mix with people, they are impure. But look, follow the life of, who was that African American, yeah, I forgot, as a musician, jazz musician, singer, who works with Ku Klux Klan members. He spends time with them, starts talking to them, is kind to them, and then they just break down and melt down, and they're like, ye to mere jaisa hi hai. He's just a human being, he's just another man, he's just another person. So that's about it, I guess. Hmm. Okay. Don't worry. Took care of the physical violence alert. Blocked that handle. Have zero patience for that rubbish. If the government remove the caste system from the application form, will the caste system be removed overnight? Ghanta it will go. It is so deeply entrenched in your psyche. You think it's going to go if you remove it from the government form? Huh. What a joke. See, somebody agrees Achiza has become crap. Yeah, Achiza has just become garbage. Worst pav bhaji now. कप में क्या है? कप में पानी है भैया. हम्म. यार ये क्यों फ्यूचर ऑफ केरला हिंदूज? टाइम आउट. कितना स्पैम करते हो यार लोग. तुम लोगों की लाइफ में कितनी कैपेसिटी है? Ravish Rawat, why don't you discuss Sanskrit non-translatables book by Rajiv Malhotra? Please, can you read that book and then talk about it? Baba, you read that book yourself now. Why do you want me to read that book and talk about it? साबूदाना खिचड़ी किसने इन्वेंट की? नो आइडिया व्हाट पीपल लाइक इन मंचिंग ऑन स्टार्च. बाबा मुझे क्या मालूम, मैं तो खाता नहीं. देखें और क्या क्वेश्चन है. ओके. What are my views on contemporary gurus like Shri Shri Ravi Shankar and Jaggi Vasudev? ये हर चौथे मोनोलॉग में ये क्वेश्चन आता है. Like, if they are doing some social work, good. Their views on physics, I don't understand. It's all buga buga. Why do you think staying in Canada would be better? I'm in America and I'm thinking if I should stay in US or move to India. भाई आप इंडिया आ जाओ, मुझे कोई शौक नहीं है. मेरे को लगता है कि मेरी लाइफ में मुझे इन टर्म्स ऑफ फ्रीडम्स, ज़्यादा फ्रीडम्स वेस्ट में मिलने वाली हैं, और थोड़े हेल्थ केयर और ये सब मामलों में भी बेटर है उधर. तो मैं उधर जाना चाहता हूँ अभी. मुझे अभी इंडिया में कुछ अट्रैक्शन दिखती नहीं है. मेरे को जो करना था मैंने कर लिया. जो सोशल वर्क करना था, जो मेरा एम था लाइफ में कि नोबडी कैन कम एंड टेल मी कि आपने इंडिया के लिए क्या किया, भाई कर लिया. गाँव में भी काम किया, स्लम्स में भी काम किया, इधर उधर भाग के काम किया, आज भी करते हैं. अब ठीक है, कर लिया, अभी जा रहे हैं. आर यू गोइंग टू प्लेटफॉर्म? अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा आफ्टर लेटेस्ट कंट्रोवर्सी. यस, आई विल. क्या लोग हो यार. प्लीज ब्रिंग सचवाला जी ऑन योर पॉडकास्ट. ये कौन है भाई? सचवाला जी कौन है? मुझे तो नाम भी नहीं मालूम है. हाउ कैन वी इंडस्ट्रियलाइज इन द नेक्स्ट फ्यू डेकेड्स? यार मेरे को एक बात बताओ, इसमें कौन सी रॉकेट साइंस है? वी नो हाउ वी कैन इंडस्ट्रियलाइज इन द नेक्स्ट फ्यू डेकेड्स. आई मीन, I have discussed this topic with Arvind Panagaria, and one of his chapters in his books was how desperately India needs the apparel industry. It is all going to Bangladesh. All of it is going to Bangladesh. और हम यहाँ बैठ के हाथ हिला रहे हैं गधों के जैसे. क्या बोले यार, ये देश ही घटिया है. क्या क्या ये पॉलिटिशियन है. हमको हैंडलूम को प्रमोट करना है. हैंडलूम डे. क्या बोलेंगे इस देश को यार. श्री हर्षा, डू यू थिंक इस्लाम कैन सर्वाइव मॉडर्निटी? Will Islam as a religion exist? Yes. Will rigid Islam? No, I don't think so. I think the challenge of modernity is going to get to it also eventually, which is one of the reasons I believe Abhijit's hypothesis in the end of Hinduism is flawed, because it looks at a singular factor. It doesn't think modernity and free speech and industrialization and all those things are going to have any influence on the Muslims in Indian society. Muslims ऐसे के ऐसे ही रहने वाले हैं, वो इधर से इधर नहीं होने वाले, और हिंदू ही सारे जाते जा रहे हैं. It doesn't happen like that. This is why I did not uh, agree with Abhijit. व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट जंतर मंतर प्रोटेस्ट? अब कौन सा प्रोटेस्ट, कितने सारे होते हैं उधर? कटोरा कट कहाँ से करवाया सर? एक मिनट रुको। ये यहां से करवाया, मैं कहीं बाहर नहीं जाता हूँ। ये है, दिस इज नॉट अ पेड एड, ये है फिलिप्स का ट्रिमर। ये यहां से शुरू करो, सेम सेटिंग पूरे टकले में घुमा दो, सबसे अच्छा सस्ता बढ़िया टिकाऊ काम। ये कुछ 4-4.5 हजार का है, सबसे वर्ल्ड का ग्रेटेस्ट है। 1.5 महीने तक इसकी बैटरी लाइफ चलती है, बहुत अच्छा है। ये कराया कटोरा कट, खुद किया। और बोलो। और क्या क्वेश्चन आए हैं जी? चिरांत, what work did you do in rural area slums, please? And another question of mine on Veerashaiva philosophy that I have tweeted out to you. मैं ये पढ़ूंगा, नो ट्वीट नहीं पढ़ूंगा अभी। What work did you do? It was about rural development. You go to a village, find out everything that they do, find the lacuna, find the flaws and the problems, and then work with the government to solve all those problems. So we worked, so it was under the Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, and the village was adopted by a member of parliament, and I was basically, my job was to go there, identify all the problems and solve it. So we, solar panels, fixing the e-room, education, schools, building their walls, doing it all, um, creating a factory out there with a very big brand and creating jobs for women, making roads, etc., etc., etc. वीर शैव फिलोसफी की किधर है? मेरे को नहीं दिखी है, मेरे को नहीं मालूम, मुझे नहीं दिख रही है, मैं ट्विटर पे देख चुका हूँ। थॉट्स ऑन मामलेदार मिसल मेरे लिए बहुत तीखा है। माई व्यूज ऑन यस्टरडेज जंतर मंतर, क्या हुआ है कल? यू माइट बी अंडर द इल्यूजन दैट मैं रोज बैठ के पॉलिटिक्स को बहुत क्लोजली फॉलो करता हूँ। जस्ट टू गिव यू एन अपडेट, आई डोंट फॉलो डेली पॉलिटिक्स। यू नो व्हाई? आई डोंट गिव अ शिट अबाउट इट। आई एम अ मैन ऑफ आइडियाज, आई कुड केयर लेस कि ये रोज क्या करते रहते हैं पागल के जैसे। मैं देखता नहीं हूँ। ये तेरे चैनल पे इतना स्पैम क्यों होता है? मुझे क्या मालूम, जो स्पैम करते हैं उनको पूछो ना। कुशल, मेरी हाइट नहीं बढ़ रही है भाई, मैं क्या करूं? तुम्हारी हाइट नहीं बढ़ रही है, एक काम करो, एक आदमी को बोलो टांगों से खींचे, दूसरे आदमी को बोलो हाथों से खींचे, दोनों साइड से खिंचवा लो, मैं भी लंबे हो जाओगे। क्या मैं क्या तुम्हारी हाइट की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करूं? क्या क्या क्वेश्चन आते हैं यार? Please bring Shrikant Talgiri again on the podcast. He is coming this month. I mean, does mocking and hurting sentiments come under freedom of speech? Yes. Bal Narendra. In this AIM type beef purity test, यार कितने क्वेश्चन अभिजीत पे? पता नहीं, मेरी लुगाई है जैसे अभिजीत। The reason the right wing is not expanding among the youth, the more exclusionary a movement is, the bigger turn off average people. Honestly, Bal Narendra, ये भी रूट है। Most, यार, who India is a by and large average age of India is 27 and a half. Check the youth voting patterns in India. एक सर्वे पढ़ लो, यार यूथ की आपकी परिभाषा क्या है? वो कुछ 2-4 करोड़ लोग जो इंस्टाग्राम पे रोज बैठ के अजीब अजीब वो गंदे मुंह बनाते हैं, जो पाउट बोल जिसको करना होता है, वही लोग हैं, और कोई लोग नहीं होते इंडिया में। यूथ यूथ स्लम्स में भी है, यूथ गांव में भी है, यूथ चॉल्स में भी है, यूथ मेरे जैसे जो बिल्डिंग्स में भी रहते हैं, जो नॉर्मल, जिनको इंस्टाग्राम से कोई मतलब नहीं है, वो भी होते हैं। वो लोग तो मोदी को वोट करते हैं। यार आप लोग वो एक छोटे से सर्कल को बोलते हैं और वही सारा ही इंडिया है। ऐसे नहीं होता यार। सचवाला जी इज एक्स मुस्लिम हूँ यार, मैं एक्स मुस्लिम मूवमेंट से, मुझे माफ करो, मुझे कोई, आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन एक्स एनीथिंग। एक्स मुस्लिम, एक्स क्रिश्चियन, एक्स हिंदू, एक्स गर्लफ्रेंड जो भी मूवमेंट है, ये एक्स गर्लफ्रेंड मूवमेंट भी होगी, मुझे कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है उसमें, मुझे माफ करो। कैन वी मिक्स राजा जी's व्यूज एंड सावरकर्स व्यूज? या Karan, we can. That's a good idea. It would help us reach the third stage, the last stage of modernity in India, in my view. Is Zakir Naik a medical doctor? I don't know. I endorse this message. Kushalmehra is amazing. Uday Kumar, one, will campaign to rename Delhi Airport to Guru Tegh Bahadur Airport before Punjab election succeed? I don't know. Logic versus Bhatti scriptures versus your opinion. I don't think so. This category, this categorization is fair. I think this. Wait for one of my podcasts. I will. I know you have asked me a super chat, but believe me, in this week I'm going to talk to a very good professor in the West, and we're going to address this religion and knowledge kind of a thing. It's not the classic case in India, so wait for it. Abhinav Prakash brought Omar Ali a few months back. You can bring him too. Omar भाई से क्या बात करनी है बताओ? Omar bhai is a good human being. I am very fond of Omar bhai. A lot of respect for him. Hmm. Will India have an AI revolution? I'm not equipped to answer that question. What do I think of Stoicism as a philosophy? Interesting. Very interesting philosophy. Chirant, have you read anything on Veerashaiva Lingayat's philosophy? It was against certain Brahmin practices and also challenged the caste. Yeah. So it's basically वो story थी ना कुछ, he wanted to go to the temple और उन्होंने नहीं बोला तो फिर उन्होंने यहीं पे मंदिर बना दिया, something of that sort. He created a Shivalingam over there on that very spot or something, and that's how it started, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, that was also a challenge to casteism, right? Hmm. I have no questions, but I want to counter some of Abhijit Iyer Mitra's hypothesis. How do I do it? I don't know. Write an email to me, or write an email to Abhijit. You can do that. I don't guarantee that I will read it or Abhijit will read it. That is not something I can guarantee you. Hmm. Okay, I'll do 5 more minutes. Okay, I can answer this. What's my view or opinion on beef consumption? It's very simple. I personally believe it should be left to the individual. Um, States should have the right whether they want to allow beef consumption or not. So I think the way beef consumption in India is controlled in India right now, where some states allow it, some states don't allow it, is the way it should be. I don't want a national law. I believe if Keralites want to, they can. Gujarat doesn't. Madhya Pradesh doesn't. They should not. Northeast wants to, they can. Some other states do not want to, they should be allowed to. As far as I'm concerned, at a personal level, I don't care if somebody eats beef or not. That's not the breaking point for me. As far as using beef as a way to mock others, I believe using anything as a way to mock others, where using a pig to mock a Muslim, beef to mock a Hindu, anything of that sort, I avoid all of that. But will I pin my entire thing on that one aspect and say you're the worst person on planet Earth? No, no, I don't. So I hope that clarifies. Baki, I think you guys are too obsessed with what Abhijit does, to be very honest. Thoda life bhi जी दो. How can you be Punjabi who doesn't watch Bollywood? अरे बकवास है Bollywood. Why should I watch Bollywood? This is so boring, stupid, unintelligent, rubbish. It is nonsense, Bollywood. I mean, I don't like it. It's garbage. There I added one more word. Okay, this is a good question. If yes, then why those who hurt the sentiments of the people, why can't they digest the crystal? Um I never said that you cannot take offense or criticize Abhijit for mocking you. You mock him, he'll mock you. Don't tweet there na. Keep twiddling your thumbs. I don't care. As long as nobody is going to jail, I don't care. Call for violence, I care. Other than that, I don't care. In fact, if you ask me, my views is very controversial. Even casteist slurs, according to me, are part of freedom of expression. Now go suck on that. Would I do that? No. Do I think somebody who does that is right? No. I think they're wrong. And I would tell them, ye mat karo. Who cares, man? जिनको जो अपना लाइफ जीनी है जिएंगे. मेरे को क्या सानू की. भाई ये बता दो कल ट्विटर पे क्या आग लगनी है. मुझे क्या मालूम भाई. मैं इतना वेला हूं. और क्या है. देखें जी. If beef consumption is a private matter, then why should one flaunt it publicly? Why does one flaunt eating ice cream publicly? I'm just asking you a question. Should we flaunt eating ice cream publicly or not? खाने की आइटम है ना. आइसक्रीम खाते हुए फोटो भेजते नहीं. आई हैड चॉकलेट आइसक्रीम. आय हाय ऐसे इंस्टाग्राम पे ऐसी मोटी फोटो डालते हैं लोग. What kind of a question is this? What kind of an argument is this? In my eyes, it's just another food item. It might be sacred to you, may not be sacred to me. I don't eat beef, by the way. I don't eat it by choice. I will not eat it by choice. I have even gone to the extent that maybe in India, the one argument that can be given is to save the Bos Indicus breed from going extinct. You can maybe create some sort of a law where every state individually says, Bos Indicus ko mat maro. बाकी बोस टोरस को मारो, खाओ, जो करना है करो. मैं तो यहां तक बोल चुका हूं. मगर ये क्या पॉइंट है कि आपने उसकी फोटो, बीफ की फोटो नहीं डाल सकते. फिर मुसलमान बोलेगा सुअर की फोटो नहीं डाल सकते. फिर पता नहीं कोई तीसरा आगे बोलेगा इसकी फोटो नहीं डाल सकते. ओ भाई क्यों? आइसक्रीम की डाल सकते हो, पपैये की डाल सकते हो. व्हाट इफ समबडी फाइंड्स पपैया कैन नॉट बी ईटन? ये छोड़ दो. वैष्णवाइट से कांदा लहसुन नहीं खा सकते. So if you put kanda lasun wala photos, it hurts his Vaishnav sentiments. Should that be stopped? Bolo. What are your thoughts on vaccine passports? The most third-rated idea. By the way, it is starting in because Mumbai local has come up with a क्या बोलते हैं उसको, थर्ड क्लास आइडिया वेयर वैक्सीनेटेड पीपल कैन travel in Mumbai locals. It's third class, because try and understand it from this point of view. Vaccines in India are not available at a stage in Mumbai where, okay, you can pay 800 rupees or 1200 rupees, whatever the charge is, and get to a private hospital and get it done. But so many poor people can't afford that price. They have to go to a government place in Mumbai to get vaccinated. And lo and behold, there is no slot available in the government place. How do they get vaccinated? Now, because the government is not vaccinating them for free, those poor people can't get vaccinated. Now, they can't get vaccinated. They can't hop into the very thing they need to travel, which is the local train. Vaccine passports suck. Aren't all religions patriarchal in nature? Then why only single out Hinduism for patriarchy? Also, is Hinduism really a religion? I mean, Hinduism in the large sense may not be religion, but they are religious punths. There are punths who are like religions. Religions have rules and regulations, strictures. So what's the big deal? I think you can call the panth a religion, and Hinduism as the larger software that keeps all of them together. Are all religions patriarchal in nature? Oh, hell yeah. One of the biggest things I've always wondered in my life is why are women religious? अपने को तो समझ में ही नहीं आता है. Why the hell are women religious? All religions give them a bad deal in varying degrees, but they're all religious. Best of luck. Is egg and milk veg or non-veg? I don't know. I don't care. Some people think the egg is non-veg. I don't care. For me, how is milk non-veg? Oh, wow. ये तो नया आ गया है. Vaishali says vegans will say ice cream का photo नहीं डाल सकते. They actually will say that. Okay. कहाँ गया भाई? Thank you so much. Best regards. Thank you very much, Zara. Ice cream and beef comparison is flawed. Cow slaughter beef eating has long history. People have died. Cow head used to put on the sacred. So when am I saying that I agree with using cow photos and stuff like that to hurt people's sentiments? Where have I said that I am okay with it? I'm not doing it. I'm saying if somebody is going to do it, they're going to do it. I don't care. My point is that you will have a problem if somebody puts a beef photo. That's what I understood it as. I don't care. I am not did I agree with what Armin Nawabi did as an act? No. But I said he has a right to be that. Similarly, if Abhijit has done that, he has a right to do that. That's all I'm saying. I don't care. I am not going to sit and become the moral judge of what everybody is doing. और आप लोग तो ऐसे बोल रहे हो जैसे आप लोग ने तो कभी किसी का दिल दुखाया ही नहीं है. आप लोग तो प्योर एंड पायस और आधे माँ जैसे. आप तो जी किसी का दिल दुखाते ही नहीं हो. आप तो ऐसे है ना, बड़े मुलायम मुलायम से लोग हो. आपने तो कभी किसी का दिल दुखाया ही नहीं अपनी जिंदगी में. I won't not do what Abhijit did, but who cares? I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Tomorrow you will put my अरे लोग मेरी फोटो बुरखे में डाल के डालते हैं. किसी को उससे भी बुरा लग जाएगा. वो बोलेगा तूने intentionally, because I am against the burqa, तूने मेरी फोटो बुरखे में डाली. That has hurt my sentiments. That is targeted harassment. I am okay with that also. Who cares? इसके लिए इतना बड़ा बावलेला मचा दिया है. हिस्ट्री है, बड़े लोगों की हिस्ट्री है. वीगन्स को बड़ा हर्ट होता है दुद्धू की फोटो देखते हैं तो. उनकी भी हिस्ट्री है. वीगन्स की भी इमोशंस को सेंटिमेंट कर दो. बट हाउ कैन अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा कॉल हिमसेल्फ हिंदू? उसको पूछो यार, मेरे को क्या करना है उससे. वो मेरी लुगाई नहीं है ऐसी. आई जस्ट वांट टू इन्फॉर्म एवरीवन, अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा इज नॉट माय वाइफ. I just want to clarify that. आप लोग मुझे क्यों पूछ रहे हो? मेरी लुगाई है वो. मैंने उसको कोई बांध के रखा हुआ है. आ इधर तू बता मुझे तेरे को क्या करना है. मेरे को तो समझ में नहीं आता. आप लोग मुझे क्यों क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा के लिए? It's beyond me. Chalo. Let us end today's discussion. I think I have answered each and every question that I could. I am sorry to that one person um, whose super chat in the beginning I could not answer. I really apologize, because for some odd reason YouTube is not opening up the page. So I'm sorry I could not answer your question. And I guess we'll wrap it up. Is there okay? Last question. Do you think that SCST Act is misused? I think yes. I think the SCST Act, as it stands today, is very draconian. I don't support such draconian measures. I don't. So there you go. There's my answer. Anyways, guys, time to wrap it up. I think it's been a long enough session today. Once again, thanks for all the support. Thanks for your questions. Um, thanks for asking me questions about Abhijit as if I am his husband and he or she or whatever is my wife. I don't care. You go and deal with Abhijit. He's going to come on this podcast. We are going to have discussions. Those discussions are going to be about subjects that I'm interested in. Beyond that, I cannot do anything. You don't like his views on things, please block him on Twitter or do what you want to do. So as long as I don't care about these things. But when you come and chat with me, it should be about my ideas and my claims, not somebody else's claims. It's my claims. So let's have a discussion on that. Anyways, time to wrap it up. As always, thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, become a member on YouTube, subscriber on Patreon, buy the merch, send your donations through UPI. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, once again, get over your obsession of Abhijit.